I'll just tell you what I think. I mean, and each one of us probably has an opinion. I'm really uncomfortable with the phrase. You know, human resources is another one of those things. We are actually using, these are phrases that come out of the industrial, hyper-industrial, post-industrial world. And so just on the basis of language, I'm not comfortable with a phrase like that. But could it be a useful entry point? I don't, perhaps, but I just don't know enough about it. I'm sorry, I can't give you a fuller answer. Yes?
I really was very interested in your description of these two streams. And yet, I was thinking of 1893 and the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago and the entry of Asian contemplative streams into at least the United States and Western cultures. So that's 100 years too.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact of those streams, probably for a lot of us, and maybe yourself included, has been very profound. It hasn't been ancient Greek thought that many of us will probably go and inform ourselves more about after tonight, but it's been Asian traditions. And so I wonder if you would speak to that as it's kind of a third stream.
Absolutely it is, and in fact I implicitly made reference to it when I said that we today are in a better position to understand what Ado is revealing about ancient philosophy, largely because of the introduction of the Asian traditions. I certainly have been a beneficiary of of Buddhist practice, although I'm not a Buddhist. So yes, indeed. But I mean, so absolutely, that's another important stream. I was just trying. Part of what you heard me doing tonight was rehearsing a kind of, part pep talk and part argument that one could make in the academic world, and it's about the two streams that I intentionally identified were Western.
Yeah.
Right. But absolutely, the Eastern stream is critical to understand where we are today.
But David, I think there might be a dualistic part of this talk that comes out in a couple different places, and you're talking about industrialization and ancient thought, and near the end, I just wonder if you might question that a little bit. What would happen to your model if you open it up a little bit to have it be triadic or rather than dual? I noticed several places as you were talking. Well, 3 directions, that was great. 3 directions. And I appreciate your hope very, very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope we'll talk about this more during the weekend. Yes?
I was surprised that you didn't speak of the Enlightenment as I teach sociology, and I'm talking to students about the founding of our discipline. You can't do that without speaking of the Enlightenment.
Right.
And speak to that with this kind of zeal, passion. These are the values that are informing what we're doing, and the classical sociological theorists are drawing on those values and methods for critiquing accumulation and industrialization and whatnot. So I was wondering, is that something that if you've got the 2 great strands that we're drawing on, the one being more positive, the ancient Greek and Roman, is this Enlightenment just simply a later reflection of that, or would you put Enlightenment thinkers together with the industrialists somehow?
It's a really good question. I actually, maybe because I'm not knowledgeable enough, remember I am a computer scientist by training, playing at some of these things, is that I think of the Enlightenment as a kind of continuation of the Greek and Roman. Maybe that's not an appropriate way to look at it, but I think of it, those values as coming from that longer inheritance. Maybe we can talk about this some more. I could be further educated. Thank you. Yes?
I also wonder if one has to deal a little bit more with Christian hegemony in all of this, because the Greek philosophers were really co-opted by Christianity and really put into one direction, and it's nice that it gets rediscovered again, but I think the Christian hegemony is in the middle there somewhere.
Well, in fact, Ado does say that, but I'm not wanting to. I guess the only group that I consider fair game at the moment is the industrialists. I don't want to point the finger at any particular religious group. Yes.
Given the influence you've described on the influence of industrialization and of science before it and the Enlightenment after it has had on our philosophy and our approach to education, in particular the mechanization of hand, head, and heart, and so on. So in a way, science and industrialization led us into this, and it's become mapped onto all areas of knowledge in the last 300 years. But kind of curiously, at the present moment, science is also showing a way out of that separation of the inner and the outer. One could take the view that truly modern science actually leads to a reintegration of the inner and the outer, which was separated, and maybe it had to be differentiated in order to reintegrate it. But I just wonder what your view is on that, and whether, particularly through information systems and global communication systems, if there's a chance that that new view of reality and that new philosophy could perhaps lead us out of the morass that we're in a new direction in a shorter time than 300 years.
Right. Another great question, and I think this question will allow me to turn the floor over to Arthur, which is what I have to do in a minute, because if there's anyone who has actually spoken to the issues of science, the new science and the contemplative thought. So Arthur, is that a way for, can I put you on the spot and then answer that question, and then have that lead into...
Well, I've heard from him before.
Oh. It's such a good job.
All right, others want to go. We want to go.
Okay, so I invite Arthur back.